I'm going full on today, Kerri. I'm ready. I'm pumped for tonight. The banter in the back room is going to be a funny session. Don't you think?
This is going to be a good night.
Are you a bit worried? Are you a bit worried about your partner coming on?
No, not at all. But this could go for 2 hours. I'm just warning everyone right now.
All right, that's a little nudge. Cookie, get on your game. Welcome, everyone, to the Cuppa of Life Cafe. If this is your first time into the cafe, welcome. We've been going for 14 nights now. 15 nights.
Yeah.
A few more nights to go. So please make sure that you use the chat room like you're doing right now. And like what we do at the start of every session, just a reminder, we are raising money for the Australian Sports Foundation. We are here to support those community clubs as they are struggling during this time. 16,000 clubs are in trouble of shutting their doors over the next 6 months. So please make sure that you do make a donation by clicking the offers area right now. All donations are tax deductible, so please get clicking and make those donations. Also play nice, get interactive, be involved, ask plenty of questions. Like I said, it's going to be a very fun night tonight. And also share the things that you love out of today's session across your social channels. In fact, why not share something right now and encourage your people to get on to this masterclass, not a masterclass, this docu-series.
It could be.
So people can enjoy it. So, Kerri, I'm going to hand over to you to do the lovely intros like you do, and I'll see you shortly.
Thank you, Luke. And hi, everyone. Welcome back, everyone who's been with us almost every night. And yes, I'm a bit sad that we're almost coming to an end, but I'm so excited for tonight because today would have been day 14 of competition in Tokyo at the Olympics that would have been, and we're so excited to be bringing you throughout this whole series incredible athletes with incredible stories to just inspire you and bring the nation together, especially at this time, and just have a lot of fun. So in Tokyo, if the Olympics were on right now, we would have been watching the women's gold medal beach volleyball match. And we would also have had a lot of the swimmers who have just finished their competition there cheering them on with the green and gold face paint and the scarves and the furry hats and probably Laurie Lawrence was there. Yep, just like you, Luke. So it is fitting that tonight we have the queen of Olympic beach volleyball in Australia, Natalie Cook, and the killer, I just saw a nickname, the killer of middle distance swimming, Daniel Kowalski. Come on in, guys.
Hello, partner.
Hey, Nat, how you going? Hey, Dan. Welcome.
Hey, Dan.
Loving the outfits. Explain. Please explain.
Well, I saw the Channel 7 special of our 20-year anniversary. It's a bit nostalgic, and I saw Roy and HG, one of them. I don't even know who's Roy or who's HG, but their shirt looks so good. I thought, I have to find my shirt. And here it is. And Daniel?
This is the opening ceremony jacket. So the Mambo design is on the inside. I haven't worn this, and I'm surprised it still fits 20 years later.
Does it do up?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Well done, Dan. Now, you have become fitter, I think, in the last few years. I saw a video of you today working out. You were doing a bit of a workout in the gym. So, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about retirement in a sec, but before we talk about retirement, we've got to talk about both of your incredible journeys. So, Natalie, tonight is about you. Don't feel like you have to, include me in it, even though I was part of it. It's all about you. So we will kick off with you, and obviously I know all about you, but to explain to everyone else out there in webinar land, 5-time Olympian, bloody incredible. Beach volleyball, obviously, bronze medal in Atlanta with moi, and then gold medal in Sydney with moi. But then after I decided to retire, you decided to keep going. You're a little bit younger than me, just a bit, just a touch. So 3 more Olympic Games. I've got to say, and I've been asking everybody coming on, if Tokyo was on, where would you be right now?
Well, I would probably be hanging over the rafters at the gold medal final watching Taliqua Clancy, our Indigenous beach volleyball superstar that I'm claiming is the best beach volleyballer in the world right now, and Maria Fay, her Peruvian, of course now Aussie partner, with a Kiwi coach. So it's kind of one of those pub jokes of what do you get when you send an Indigenous Australian, a Peruvian and a Kiwi to Tokyo. That's a gold medal, hopefully, is the answer.
What a great mix. Now, Nat, you started off in Townsville as a youngster doing nippers and, getting into other sports. How on earth did you get into beach volleyball?
Well, I was swimming. I wanted to be good like Dan. I wanted to be a swimming sensation. I saw Lisa Curry win the 100 metres freestyle at the Commonwealth Games in 1982, and she got out of the pool. She put her green and gold tracksuit on and got on top of the podium and sang Advance Australia Fair. And at 8, I said, I want to do that. And from then, I kept swimming, and I don't know how you did it, Dan, for so long, especially over 1,500 metres, and to train for that is kilometre after kilometre. But I got sick of that black line. I really had a struggle with the up and down boredom and the smell of chlorine and eating cereal out of a little box when you finished swimming, that I sort of I moved from Townsville to Brisbane because Dad got a new job, and then I went on the hunt for a new sport that was going to get me to the Olympics. And I literally tried everything from Vigoro, for those in the day that would understand Vigoro, a girls' cricket form. I was really good at that. That was one of my favourites, because you would peg the ball, not bowl it, but peg it. And so I felt that was my game, but it wasn't. No one knew what it was. So I went from Vigoro to Taekwondo to skateboarding to tennis to golf to water polo. I tried everything. And then there was a notice on the school notice board about the size of your computer screen that says volleyball trip to Canada and America. And that's how I got involved in volleyball, and really raced upstairs to the PE department and said, "What's volleyball?" And that's how my journey started, and just kept going. Once beach volleyball was announced in the Olympics, I was in the right place at the right time.
Well, I'm certainly thankful that your teachers put that note up that day. I'm going to give you a big one right now, because obviously that led to 5 Olympics. And so I'm going to kick it off with, what does the Olympics mean to you? Because it's obviously been a massive part of your life.
Yeah, it really, from that 8-year-old's dream to want to wear the green and gold for Australia to the Olympic rings just signifies excellence, not only in sport, but off the field as well, and off the court and out of the pool and in all areas of your life. And because that was the thing that I think we found so much in our journey, was once we elevated everything else in our life to a gold medal standard, our game got better. And it really is about being the best you can on any given day, doing everything from, and it can get exhausting, but making the bed to brushing your teeth to how you make your breakfast and wash up your dishes and all of those things. And that's what being an Olympian means. It's about excellence in all areas of your life. And it literally does run through my blood and my veins. And we think about it here in this house. My 5-year-old daughter finds every Olympic rings there are. So I think she's going to have the bug too.
Well, and you do, that excellence does continue, because Nat texted me just about 15 minutes ago and said, what background do I need? Do I need like a white background or a busy background? So still thinking about doing your best and bringing your best performance. So yeah, absolutely concur with that. Dan, okay, I'm going to give you a bit of an intro, so bear with me, everyone. One of Australia's greatest ever middle and long distance freestyle swimmers. You competed in 2 Olympics, Atlanta and Sydney. Did you do another one? Couldn't quite work that out. 2?
That's enough.
2 was enough. In the 200, 400 and 1,500 metre individual freestyle events and the 4x2 freestyle relay, you were the first man in 92 years to earn medals in all of them, 2, 4 and 1,500 metre freestyle events. Incredible. 2 bronze and a silver in Atlanta, then the gold in the relay at your home games in Sydney. You've also racked up 9 World Championships medals, of which 6 were gold, and 6 Com Game medals, 2 were gold. So, Dan, how does a boy that's born in Singapore and then comes over to Australia at the age of 6 get into swimming?
Do you know what? It's probably one of the quintessential things, is being able to swim in an island country and being immigrants. my dad and I were acutely aware that sport was a massive part of this society. Swimming was offered at school. My sister was quite good at it, so I just followed her to the pool, and the rest is really history. You know, like Nat said, I tried a lot of different things, but always resorted back to swimming, not because I was good at it, but that's where my friends were.
Yeah, we've really realised that a lot, speaking to athletes, that it's about the community too, and most athletes stay involved in their sports because of the friends they make. So if your kids aren't in sport, listen to us. It's the best thing that can ever happen to you. So you started representing Australia at 15. You just missed qualification in 1992 games, but you made it to Atlanta, and you were qualified fastest for the 1500 metre final, and we'll tell you our story of how you guys inspired us in a sec. But did you feel the pressure going in as the fastest qualifier? And what were you thinking? Like, how was the mindset going into that final?
Listen, the biggest takeaway from me at the Olympic Games was that what separates, you know, those who make a podium and those on the top of the podium in the second and third rung is what's between years. And I didn't have that. I was not strong enough mentally. I always felt like I just wanted to be that 9-year-old kid in the lounge room watching the 84 Olympics, which is what inspired me to get there. And so for me, you know, mentally I was all over the place. I was petrified. It was no longer fun. And for me, you know, on reflection, a lot of years later, that was one of my regrets, was that you work so hard to obviously get to that point, and to not enjoy it. It was disappointing, but I think my life as an athlete is so small, and the rest of my life is far greater. So I've taken those learnings, and I'm extremely proud of what I achieved, but I did not handle 96 very, very well at all.
Do you think it was the pressure, though, being the fastest qualifier, or do you think it was, you know, Kieran being there, coming back, trying to get, you know, back-to-back gold medals? Did that kind of intimidate you, do you think?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm in lane 4 and he's in lane 8, and Kieran, and you know, he's my hero, he's my idol, and someone I respect the utmost. And the fact that in most of my races as a representative of Australia in international competition, we'd always been in either lane next to each other, or like 1 or 2 over. So I'd always been able to see him, and not being able to see him and not having the confidence in my own ability meant that I was just like in no man's land. I literally felt as though I was swimming these 30 laps, not really knowing where I was.
Wow.
It's kind of ridiculous for an Olympic final.
Yeah, but it makes sense, because, you know, you obviously, it is important to see who's next to you. And if somebody's in lane 8, you know, way ahead of you, you had no idea.
No idea. And I've always respected those athletes, whatever sport they do, who are able to say, listen, my blinkers are on, I'm not looking around me, and I'm just focusing on myself. Whereas I'm 100% like, oh, look at that person, look where they are, and, you know, they look good underwater, and that sort of stuff. I was like, so I'm probably the opposite of what, you know, sports psychologists and those who are into all those things, mindfulness and focusing on. I was the total opposite. I was not what you would base yourself off.
Well, the other person on this call with us tonight is very similar. Someone who was like, yeah, not focused, let's play this point, you know, orchestrating the crowd, and really getting into it. And, you know, and I think it's part of personality, if you are like that, to have someone tell you you're not allowed to do that. At the same time, also wouldn't be helpful. But Nat, can you tell Dan how that swim that night inspired us after we had lost our semi-final in Atlanta?
Yeah, I can, but the poor guy probably doesn't want to hear it, because he. I mean, I had the same. If I was in my own tunnel, I would have gone crazy with my own voice. I really had to use the energy of everyone. I had to know where everybody was and what was going on, and can hear my parents in this corner, and I know exactly where people were in the stadium. And but what happened in Atlanta for us, I had this similar situation with my response in the semi-final in Atlanta. So I was 21 years old, our first Olympic Games. We had been prepared by our coach, Steve, to play against 2 specific teams. And he had said to us, if you can beat those 2 teams, which was an American team and a Brazilian team, you can beat anyone in the draw. So we're just going to focus on them. But what I think he didn't appreciate at the time, and we weren't to know, and I wasn't to know until semi-final time, standing out there in your bikini and the first whistle goes, and all of a sudden that what you talked about, Dan, in between your ears starts playing tricks on you and saying things that you've never heard before. We were playing Brazil #2, which was a very different emotional makeup team. They stood across from me to serve, and they stand back from the line 5 meters, so the court is now extended. And I just saw like the ball, which probably moved this much. I saw the ball move this much. Like the ball just, it was, I had no idea where the ball was going. All of a sudden it hit me in the face, and we were only losing by 1 point, and I had given up. I'm like, the game's over. We can't win. They're too good. I suck. This is terrible. All of that downward spiral started to happen. So the worst part about that is you're out of the gold medal match. You're out of the silver medal match. You're in the bronze, which absolutely means you can come fourth, which means you can go home with nothing.
The worst.
Absolutely the worst. So I'm like, I just want to get on a plane. I don't even want to play the next day in case we come fourth. And I'm a blubbering mess to Kerri and to Steve. And they say, look, no point having a meeting to talk about a game plan, because I wouldn't listen to anything. Go down to the physiotherapy room and get treatment on my little toe or something. Like everything ached, everything hurt. And I go down to the physio room in the village. There's no one there. I'm like, oh, great. Now they've left me too. No one gives a stuff. No one cares. Poor me. The victim mind comes in. And in the far corner of this room, I see about 5 people huddled around this little TV. And on the screen is Kieran and Dan racing in the 1,500 metres. And I remember it like it's yesterday. And Dan had no idea. He couldn't clearly see Kieran getting out in front. But Kieran had a shocking semi to get in. He just made it by point whatever of a second into lane 8. And everyone was thinking Dan was going to win. We were like, Dan's in lane 4, so lay down Mazaire. Kieran sucks out there in the corner. He surely can't do any good. And so we're huddling around this TV, and all of a sudden Kieran just takes off. And then he wins the race. Dan comes in not knowing what's going on, because clearly he hasn't realised he's there. And Kieran gets out of the pool, and this was the moment that had me win the bronze medal. Right then, I didn't even really need to play. I'd made the decision myself. He got out of the pool. He threw his finger in the air, and you could see his like pec was like the size of Farlap's heart. And he said, I got out in front, and I was going to stay out in front even if my arm fell off. And I'm like, that's it. That's what I got to do. I just got to get out in front. Go, Kieran. I got to get out in front. And so up I run upstairs to Kerri and Steve. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm fixed. Let's go. Let's game plan. We're on. And then the next day we win the Olympic bronze medal. So I wish it had been you at that point, Dan, that I could be talking about you winning that race. But I absolutely get that if your wingman's not there and you don't know that lane 5 and 3, did you ever think you were winning that?
Nah, never. I never thought I was winning. Like when you're swimming the perfect, at least 1,500 to me, when you're in the zone, it's 30 laps normally, but it feels like 1 lap. But here I felt every single lap. And like the guy from Great Britain caught up to me, and like no disrespect to him, but I was like, oh, he's a hack, and he's caught up to me. And so, yeah, I knew, inside I kind of knew, but until you turn around and see the scoreboard. And I remember after I touched him, I turned over to look to lane 8, and I saw him doing that motion, and I was like, oh, he won.
Oh, Dan. I mean, yeah, it's not like you lost. You just were beaten by Farlap. You know, what an incredible, event for Kieran, and that's what the Olympic Games is all about.
Yeah.
Is the inspiration of the other athletes and the effect that it has on you as an athlete. I mean, so many stories can be told about things like that happened at the Games and how we inspire each other. I mean, in Sydney, Pat Rafter was somebody that that inspired me when we were dealing with playing in front of a home crowd and having 10,000 people, cheering their hearts out for us. And that was so scary. And we talked to Pat, and he gave us some tips and tricks on how to deal with being, back in a home environment. So, it's so crucial, and that's why it's so amazing to have 400 or 500, Aussies there competing alongside you. Dan, you were a consistent swimmer, obviously, all throughout your career, in probably one of the most successful eras, obviously with Perkins, but also with Hackett and Thorpe. Do you ever think, damn it, I wish I was like 10 years younger or older? Do you know?
No, listen, sorry to cut you off, but it's probably, in terms of being interviewed, that is probably one of the most asked questions that I get. But the reality is that I remember, watching Glenn Houseman unofficially break the world record at the Commonwealth Games trials. I was in the same race as him, 3 lanes over. And then him and Kieran going 1-2 at the Commonwealth Games in 1990, and them going 1-2 in 92, having just missed a team. So they were my inspiration. Wouldn't have had that drive without them. So, and then I wouldn't have wanted to stay a part of it without all of those guys. So for me, if it wasn't for them, then I definitely wouldn't be on this podcast, because I tell you what, looking at that introduction and all those people that you have interviewed already and still to come, I honestly have to pinch myself that I'm on this thing, because the talent is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So it's such an honor to be here.
Well, I mean, you made it here with all your experiences, and I made sure that I mentioned all those medals, all those wonderful medals that you've won at World Champs and Com Games as well. Where are they all, by the way? Are they all in one bunch, in one big bag? Or do you play with them every now and again? Do you take them out? Are they mint condition, or are they a bit daggy now?
It's funny. So I've currently managed to get to Queensland for lockdown at my parents' place. And if you bear with me for 1 second.
Oh, they're right there. Cool.
2 of my medals are in a Tupperware. So this one is this one's a 1500 silver, and this one's the 200 bronze. The gold from Sydney is in. I keep it in a drawer in Sydney, in a drawer in the kitchen, and then the bronze from the 400 is on display at MSAC in Melbourne. So, it's funny. I don't know about you two, but as a kid, obviously all I wanted was these 2 things. Probably not in Tupperware, but that's where they are. But now that I've got them, it's like a peace of mind. I don't need to look at them all the time. They hopefully maybe an inspiration to other people, but for me, they're just like, I did that, and there's more things to do in life.
Yeah, awesome. And that's exactly what they are for us, I think, too, is the inspiration for others, because when people see ours and touch ours, and the delight in people's faces is far greater than the delight that I have or hold now when I touch the medal. Hey Nat, 5 Olympics. I don't know if I've ever asked you this. Maybe I know the answer, but why? Why 5? Why keep going? Why keep pushing your body? Injuries, partner changes, financial problems. Like, why keep going?
Well, I guess it's sort of what I knew, and it was what I was best at. And people often think 4 years is a long time between Olympics, and it is. And of course, now we're 5 years between, which I can't imagine. But it's 1 year after the other. Ultimately, we play a world tour. We travel around the world. The lifestyle is amazing, traveling to the best beaches in the world. And it was how I made a living. And it was starting to, as you said, financial challenges. It was always a challenge. But part of what I loved was how we tried to get our sponsorship, piece together grant funding, how much prize money can you win, and try and piece together a life through beach volleyball, which is what we did. And ultimately, most of the money came from speaking and public speaking and corporate speaking, which is why Daniel was worried he couldn't get a word in, because both of us have funded our beach volleyball careers through corporate speaking. And we just knew that was our ticket to have us go to the next beach volleyball game. If we could really tell our stories and share some inspiration with our fellow Aussies. So that's what we did. But I just love the Olympics. I love everything about it. I even love the pressure of it. I love the culmination of 4 years of performing to get ready to peak on one given event. And I think, I would say that I became an Olympic expert on how to prepare to perform at an Olympic Games through injury, through mental pressures. I seemed to lift. I loved the expectation. I loved performing under pressure. And whereas training was like really boring, right? I wanted that crowd. I wanted the energy. When you're playing on court 8 out the back and nobody's there to support you and you've got to clap yourself, that's really not good.
Sorry to interrupt, Kerri, but to me that is so fascinating because I love to train and I got scared with competition. So I think outside of what Kathy experienced on that night when she won the 400, you two had the stadium at the most quintessential location that this country could ever have, with 10,000 people just urging you on. I would have been beside myself, yet you thrived in that environment.
Yeah, we learnt that. Kerri talked about Pat Rafter, the first time we played against Mexico in our first round, and on paper we should have won quite easily. And at one point the scores got really close. And it was because when we hit the ball in and did something great, we had 10,000 people cheering us on. And we don't usually get that. We usually have someone going like this, a golf club out the back, or it's our coach or it's ourselves. And so it kind of made us jump higher and run faster. It was so awesome. But on the flip side, the thing we hadn't prepared for, we could never have prepared for, was when you hit the ball out or in the net, 10,000 people going, oh, right? So with your head underwater, potentially, I mean, they're not going to do that anyway, but imagine hearing that. It was like, what did I just do wrong? And my pants fell down or something? Like, what's going on? And so we had to we kind of clicked into a second gear. We beat Mexico. We got onto our sports psychologist, Phil Jauncey. He talked to us a little bit and then said, why don't you track someone down that's had the same experience? So there we are in the Olympic Village, sitting on Pat Rafter's bed with Leighton Hewitt across in the next bed, chatting about your experience of playing in the Australian Open. So I worked out that for my personality, I had to orchestrate the crowd. So I became a conductor. And I found a way to really think that even when the crowd was somewhat disappointed in us or me, that I would flip that energy around and have it be like they were still cheering and on my side. So I really had to get them, even when I hit the ball out, I was getting them to cheer so that it felt like we were still winning. Whereas Kerri would like to go tunnel. She's like, you go and do that. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay focused. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone else. I'll focus on my own business. So, yeah, we're very different.
Yeah, and that was exactly why when, we won that last point, it took me a while to get up because I'd been so focused that I really wasn't aware of the impact of all those people around us. So I was almost frightened to look up and see all the faces and go, oh my God. So yeah, but it's, and that's what it's like being a team. And that was a question I had for you, Nat, too. I mean, you had 3 different partners in the 5 Olympics, myself, then Tamsin, Nicole, then Tamsin. How did you deal with the different personalities? Was it difficult to make that switch?
Yeah, very different and very challenging because I had to be cautious of not trying to make it the experience that you and I had. And like Kerri and I did it this way, so we should do it this way. And really try and make it a collaborative approach. And the same with our coach. Steve, I continued on with Steve on my journey for most of the Olympics after that. And so it was like we tried to make it not an us versus them, come and do it this way because we know. Whilst I probably thought that, I'm like, hello, we won medals. You might want to listen to some of the stuff we've got to say. But, you couldn't do it like that. You had to – it's almost like we had to learn the new mistakes again and on our own and in that team. So how to talk to each other, how to inspire each other, how to help each other when it's not going to plan, which is the most important thing. Sport is really easy when you're winning, and it's so easy to high five and hug and woohoo when you're winning, but when you're losing, can you still do that? And can you do it with being authentic and supporting each other? And that was probably the thing that I found the most challenging, when you really just want to go over to the corner or kick the ball out of the grandstand or push do a John McEnroe, which of course we've well, I personally had to learn not to do that, otherwise I could have got a red card.
Classic, brings back so many memories, frustrations. Hey,
water bottles, Kes, water bottles and ball kicking.
Yep, there are a few. Hey, Dan, throughout your career, you had a lot of challenges with your health: glandular fever, respiratory tract infections, hay fever, conjunctivitis, shoulder injuries, food poisoning, to the point where, you know, coming off the back of one swim after food poisoning, you know, you're collapsing on the deck. And you even had a couple of bike accidents, and one was on a treadmill. We'll ask you about that in a sec. But I want to ask you, what drove you? Like, what was it about the training that you loved that pushed you through all of those challenges?
I think I touched on it before that, you know, swimming for me was where my friends were. But I think looking back on it, a lot of that had to do with my sexuality and coming to terms with who I was, and swimming up and down that black line. You know, no one can bother you when you're in the main set and doing the training. So I was just in my own little world, and so I didn't have to deal with anything other than the times that, you know, my coaches wanted me to hit at that particular point in time. So for me, that was easy. Plus, I got to do what I loved and represent the country that I love. And, you know, so for me, that part was very, very easy. And that's why I struggled, I think, a lot with the competition side, because you're so exposed there. And for me, like I alluded to right at the start, I wasn't mentally strong enough for that. And, you know, I can't change it, and I wouldn't change that. But, you know, it highlights just how important you can train. If there's, you know, people aspiring to do anything in life, you know, watching right now or who will watch, you can train or do as much as you can, be prepared as much as you possibly can be. But if it's not there, it's just not going to happen. Simple as that.
Yeah, perfectly said. But I do want to know what happened on the treadmill, though. What happened? Have
you seen like swimmers or aquatic people on land at all? Unless you're an Ironman or a triathlete where you need to do other things on land. Like, I'm quintessential 2 left feet kind of guy, and I remember just running on a treadmill, and I was like, wow, I was super impressed with myself. And then before you know it, smack right onto the treadmill, and then literally rolled off the back.
Hey, Daniel, did you have that moment where you hit the treadmill and you stop and then you go, whoa, you're off, like straight after?
There was no stopping. I was like straight out the back, and the rubber burn on my shin, I've still got a scar to this day. Like, it's just not meant to happen.
Well, have you ever run again?
No, I did. I went back to surf lifesaving, and I remember I was at the Masters Nationals on the Gold Coast, and it was the board rescue, and I was representing Lorne out of Victoria, and I snapped my Achilles running out into the water.
Oh, yeah, not for you. Stop
that now. Not for me at all.
We did have you in a celebrity beach volleyball match down at Manly a couple of years ago, and I remember I said, come on, Dan, do a jump serve. And I said, just throw it up and then just jump and hit it over. And you did. Like, you impressed me so much. You were actually coordinated, and you were also huffing and puffing. Like, it was a full-on workout.
Well, listen, you already know how much I respect the fact that the burn running in soft sand must do to you, let alone where the sand ends up your bikini suit. But that day was super fun. I couldn't walk for about 5 days, but pride took over. But anytime I love to do it. Like, I feel like I'm the best at basketball, tennis, whatever it may be. I'm simply the best. But I'm just a 5'10" white guy who really harbors a desire to be a better athlete than I am.
You're simply the best at training. Just don't put you in a competition. Hey, I want to.
You'll be pleased to know, Dan, that Grant Hackett was terrible at beach volleyball. So definitely you can lead that team.
Yeah, he actually jumped and missed the ball Completely. Air
I know,
sweat.
'cause his limbs are so long and gangly. It's like a puppy trying to grow into their limbs, right?
Hey guys, I wanted to go down this track now. I want to talk to you a bit about the common, I guess, the secret that you had as athletes early in your career, Nat, and then throughout your entire career, Dan, being gay. Nat, firstly, what did it feel like during that first part of your volleyball and beach volleyball career, having to hide it, or hide it from me, hide it from everyone else? What was going on there? How did you feel?
Well, it's interesting. I was probably 15 and very focused on sport and school, and not really about friendship or, intimate friendships or relationships either. And people told me before I was, like, even you would have a few goes at me at times saying, just face it, you're gay. I'm like, what do you mean? No, I'm not. I've just got friends that are girls. Shut up already. Like, so there would be plenty of that discovery time and I wasn't really interested. I really wanted to be an Olympian. I wanted to be the best in my sport. I wanted to be the best at my school work, and friends sort of was something that went by the wayside, let alone time for a special person. So I didn't really have that until much older. And so I was sort of exploring my sexuality along from 15 to, say, 21. And I didn't have my first girlfriend until I was 21. So I had people along the way telling me I was gay. And so that was like, oh, what is that? First of all, what does that mean? And we didn't have Google back then to go and Google it. So that meant you had to ask people, which sort of let the cat out of the bag. If you're asking for it, the pot calling the kettle black, then something surely is a little bit off centre. So, and when I say that in a good way, like, we are off centre, Dan, we're the way better side off centre. And so, yeah, it wasn't a secret. I didn't feel like it had to be kept a secret. I just felt like it was kind of none of anyone else's business. But if someone asked me, except for you, because you ask me every day, then I wouldn't tell, there's no need to tell anybody until later in my career. But that's sort of how it started early on.
Yeah, and then I remember when you told your mum and dad too. That was special moment.
Yeah, well, like I said, I had a friend that happened to be a girl, and she was staying over at my house, and it was like, oh, it's just my friend. And my dad started to call her my special friend, which is a great way to start. This is Nat's special friend. And so educating them and telling my mum first, who mum didn't skip a beat. She was all, happy as Larry, but her words out of her mouth were, don't tell your father. I'm like, what do you mean, don't tell your father? She didn't think he would handle it as well. And so it took me a little bit longer. And I remember taking him to play golf because Dad fostered me as a golfer. And so I said, Dad, let's go and play golf. It was the worst golf game I've ever played. Talk about focus. How am I supposed to focus on hitting the golf ball when I'm supposed to tell him, I've got a girlfriend? And my mum had said, don't tell him. So I got all this going on. Like, Olympic competition was a breeze compared to this. And I eventually told him, I said, we didn't play 18 holes. We played 9. I said, Dad, we should stop for lunch. Don't worry about playing anymore. And I explained to him that I had my special friend was a girl. And he said, oh, yeah, I knew that. And so, like, I'm sure, I don't know Dan's complete story, but most of the time people know well before you're prepared to let them know.
Yeah, and I just got to say, just on the record, I don't think I asked you, I said that every day, but I think I could feel that it was something that was, distressing, or, that I felt like you needed to come out with it, I guess. Maybe that's why I was pushing you like a big sister, and that you can when you're like a big sister. Yeah,
and maybe you didn't, but maybe I felt that, right, of that desire, so that I strongly believe as soon as athletes express it and be their true self, then they can live into their sport performance and their life performance, and they're much freer people when you are free to be ourselves. And, of course, now marriage is legal, so it's a whole different game than what it was 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, amazing. And, Dan, you were known for your team spirit and your generous support of others, but meanwhile you were like battling within yourself something that you were trying to hide throughout your career, because you only came out a few years later.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily was trying to hide it. I was probably genuinely confused, and it wasn't until that I came to terms with my sexuality, in 2004, 2005. But I sort of reflected back to, when I was an athlete, and Caroline Coleman has asked a question: do you feel that if my sexuality affected my sporting career? At the time, I don't. It wouldn't have. I don't think it would have changed any results, but it would have internally would have changed the way I felt about myself when I stood up on the blocks. I felt I would have felt as though I had a true identity, and so I think that's important. But I was scared to do it, and I look back now, and my coming out was extremely easy in the sense that my family were very supportive, my friends were supportive. I've worked in sport my entire career, and I've never felt any experienced any homophobia. So I'm kind of disappointed that I was so scared to do it. But on the flip side, I want young people to know, or older people who are struggling with their sexuality, to know that, and it's very cliched, but it does get better, and that's a term that is used a lot, but it does get better. It is easier, as Nat alluded to. We live in a time where it's more accepted. There's still going to be some hatred towards it. That's human nature, but there's a lot of love for it, and once you're out there and you're proud, it's a very, very liberating, invigorating feeling.
Yeah, well said. And Nat, do you think it's easier now for athletes to be open about their sexuality in sport?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some countries it's still a challenge for them, and it's not considered legal, especially a lot of Asian countries. I know Hong Kong have the gay games in 2022, and a lot of the makeup, over 50% of the makeup of the countries, it's still not legal. So I think, the movement we saw here to make it legal, of which Dan was a big part of, to get the yes vote, really did change something. And it's hard to describe. It's hard to describe what an Olympian is, and to win an Olympic gold medal, it's hard to describe that moment when the yes vote came through, of what that meant for us as a community and a tribe. But I do think now it's much, much easier. And then in London 2012, I remember walking through a shopping centre, and a lady came chasing after me, Natalie, and I thought she was going to take a photo being a volleyball player or get an autograph. She said, "Oh, I just need to tell you my son's gay." I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so, I think as our athletes, in the time when it wasn't so accepted, I think we became kind of inspirational. We helped mostly parents, I think. It wasn't so much athletes came to talk to me, but parents did, and they wanted to talk through how to help their athlete. They really did. It was much easier than we thought, and the parents really do want to help. Now, of course, there's going to be ones that are completely against it, and it's still a challenge. But what if people were on your team and on your side and helped you? How would that be? And that's the way I try and get the young people to look at it today.
Yeah, beautiful. And Dan, you've been involved with Beyondblue and some other organisations helping there. What gave you the inspiration to work with these guys?
For me personally, it was a really dark period. And I was someone who was in a fortunate position where I had all the resources and support available to me. I had an extremely supportive family and friend network, and I was still struggling. So to know that there are thousands out there who don't have that luxury really hit a chord with me. And I wanted to be in a position to be able to share my experiences and to sort of let people know that even those who in a perceived better environment or more fortunate situation still struggle, they still need the support. So it's important that that support is out there. And so anytime I get the opportunity to do that, I love to do it, because you don't realize, and again, it's very cliche, but you can affect one person's life in a really positive way, and the the flow-on effect from that is sizable, and to me that makes it extremely worthwhile.
And what would you say is the first step for someone who is having difficulties, whether it's their sexuality or depression or anxiety or anything in that area? What's the first step?
Is to talk to someone. There are a lot of resources and a lot of hotlines and so forth that are available to people out there. Don't be scared to utilize them. And I think for people, more importantly, who know that there's vulnerable people in their life, is to listen and then to refer, because it's very easy to get caught up in a situation where you become that lone support network for that particular person. That's a massive burden. Australia is very lucky. We have so many support networks in place, and referring on is the most valuable thing that you can do.
Awesome. And one of the networks that you're obviously very involved in is the Australian Olympic Committee. So you'll be dealing and listening to stories of those athletes who have had their Olympics postponed. How is everyone going? How are you going within the Olympic Committee in terms of, pushing everything out a year? Because we haven't really asked, we feel for the athletes, but we don't feel for all the administrators. We don't actually feel for what the work that's gone into and now having to push that for another year.
Yeah, first and foremost, the athletes, the coaches, the support network, their families. I can't imagine. I've highlighted a couple of times that as an athlete, I was very vulnerable, so I don't know how I would have gone in this situation. To the Tokyo Organising Committee, such a beautiful country and beautiful people. My heart breaks for them for what they're going through, but it's business as usual. It's going to be on in 2021. It's probably going to look a little bit different, and all NOCs will be working towards it looking different. The most important thing is that our athletes know that their best interest, both from a performance, but more importantly, from a health and safety point of view, is the number one thing. I think what you have highlighted over the last 2 weeks and the work that Nat does at the QAS and through the QOC and stuff like that, you are letting these young athletes know that there's an incredible support network out there for them. And that's really important in this time because, other than the crew who sadly missed an opportunity in 1980 through politics who didn't go, this is unprecedented. So we're all in uncharted waters. And so for them to know that there's an incredible network around for them is really important.
Yeah, 100%. And it's great that you mentioned what Nat's doing, because I was going to ask you, Nat, you have a podcast just finishing. You had 15 or so days of athletes who are right now in training for next year on this day with Nat Cook. And in that, and I loved it, the part where you get them to imagine that day when they will win the Olympic gold medal. Tell us about how that's been with the different athletes.
Yeah, I just felt like it was a time where we needed our athletes still to have that time in the sun. I mean, some of these athletes from diving, archery, synchronized swimming, even, beach volleyball and swimming to an effect. These sports only get the mass attention once every 4 years. And so we wanted them to know that, first of all, they weren't forgotten, that we were absolutely, like Dan said, there to support them and find a network that was going to support them in whatever field they needed. And I wanted a special time for them to share with us what their dream looks like in their head when they put their head on their pillow at night, right? These athletes from 5 to 10 years old have had a dream that they wanted to go to the Olympics and win medals, gold medals. Now, I will say most of them, most people put their head on their pillow and say, I want to win a gold medal. They don't say, I want to come fourth, or I want to get close, or I'd like to come second, right? That is just how the dream happens, right? So I wanted them to share that. I wanted to share Taliqua Clancy winning her gold medal. What would it feel like? Are you spiking the ball? Are you blocking the ball? Like in your head at night when you put your head on the pillow. Shani Williams, our rugby sevens superstar, who has already won a gold medal in Rio. What's it going to be? Who's she passing the ball to? Is she scoring the try? Is Alia jumping on top of her? What's going on? And what it did was allow them to feel good. Like we're in this state of, everyone's sad around the around Queensland right now. We're all sad for Victoria. We're sad for Sydney. Everyone's sad. It's like this sad vibe. And I wanted them to come out of that and give us a little bit of their golden dream and know that we are right there supporting them. So 12 months away gave them a little bit of that license or permission to do so, because week out from the games, I guarantee you, unless it was you or me, Kez, people are not going to say, I'm going to win a gold medal. They're going to say, I'm going to do my best. I've trained really hard for this. I've been dreaming about this. I'm going to do my best. So it was so nice to hear 15 of them from all different sports say, when I put my head on the pillow at night, I dream of winning like this. And some of them can articulate, like Carly McCulloch, the cyclist. I was on the edge of my seat during her podcast. She was telling us around bend 3 who she was up against, the Chinese, the German, the acceleration through the pedal, the wind through, coming off her helmet and crossing the line, and her pumped legs. It's just awesome. I could go on. Like, now I have 17 amazing stories. I just can't wait to watch them all next year.
Yeah, and then play that back to them. Have it ready on the finish line and play it back to them and go, yeah, you did it. Yeah, so cool. And what I love about all three of us is that we're still so heavily involved in sport and inspiring people and, involved with the Olympic movement, because, it's in our blood, like you've said. We could just go on for hours, but we have a segment called the 60-second sprint. Now, Dan and Nat, you've seen this happen, so I don't need to tell you how it works. Who would like to go first?
Oh, ladies first.
All right. We'll see if we can get 60 seconds on the clock. And here we go, Nat. Your hardest fought match ever?
The bronze medal match in Athens with a sore shoulder.
How do you deal with nerves?
Just brush them off my shoulder and keep focusing forward.
Did you prefer music, books, or chatting with others before games?
None of the above.
What did you do?
Talk to myself and you.
And went to the physio and got strapped.
That's right, and watched Kieran Perkins and Daniel.
Your favourite Olympic moment other than your own?
Ooh, the 4x100 relay, first night, Sydney 2000, smash them like guitars.
Best opening ceremony out of the 5?
Atlanta, because it was my first one. I had no idea of that sensation coming over the top to 110,000 people.
Yes, me too. Most famous person, apart from us, that you've ever met along the way?
Ooh. Well, he's most famous to me, Greg Norman.
And you've got a cool picture with Roger Federer. I remember that one too.
Oh, yeah, he's like my buddy. He's my Swiss chocolate buddy. It's all good.
Favourite beach you've ever played on?
Bondi. Hello.
And your worst roommate ever, and why?
Present company excuse.
I didn't know she stayed with you, Dan.
I can't say that one, but I was probably your worst roommate because I was messy. Kerri was so neat and tidy in her suitcase and mine was everywhere. So I'm probably my worst roommate. Yeah,
but the funnest. Cool. Thank you, Nat. All right, Dan, you ready?
No.
They're not too bad. All right. You've lived in almost every city in Australia. Which one's your favourite?
Gold Coast.
Individual races or relays?
Relays.
Did you sleep the night before your finals?
Hell no.
Did you have a favourite saying or word that you used to pump yourself up?
Concentrate on little things.
Like?
No, don't go that deep.
What? Example?
Streamline, don't breathe off the walls. Keep your head down.
Yeah, cool.
Come on, next question.
If you didn't swim, what sport would you have played?
Basketball.
How long can you hold your breath for?
My record was 2 minutes 15.
My son Tyson asked me to ask you that. I thought that was a great question. Olympic tattoo.
Yes.
Where is it? Is it on your butt?
No, it's on my ankle. Not that.
On your ankle. Gosh, boring. Hang on, I've got a couple more. What did you used to think about when you were swimming for hours following that black line training?
So I have a massive sweet tooth, so it's normally about donuts.
Your favourite Olympic moment other than your own?
I was very lucky to be there the night Kathy ran 100%.
Awesome.
That was incredible.
You know, we made her famous, Dan. You know, we made her famous.
Without a doubt.
We won the 99th gold medal, allowing her to win the 100th. It was like a fairy tale.
It's meant to be.
And Natalie will never let her forget that. Hey, Dan, I got one more for you. This is mine, not from my son. Did you ever pee in the pool?
Of course. When you have to do an 8-kilometre set and the coach says you can't get out, like when nature calls, nature calls.
Oh, fair enough. Oh, Cookie, I'm done.
I peed in the pool too. I peed in the pool a lot.
As long as you didn't pee on the beach, you're all right. So don't worry about that.
People do.
No.
Yep, some men particularly.
What?
Yes.
No.
Yep.
That's horrible.
That's for another show.
That's for another show. Hey, I just want to say that was epic. You know why it was so epic? Because I forgot to put on half the pictures because I was too busy listening in to everything that people were saying. So I'm just going to show this one first. Sorry.
Oh. Sarah and Jordan. How old's Jordan now, Nat?
She's 5 in October. It's unbelievable how quickly they grow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That was our second wedding. So we wore the same outfits the second time round because we got married unofficially first in Queenstown 10 years before that.
Oh, wow.
Hey, and we're getting a lot of questions about, hold on, just stay there, callers, hold on, I'm coming, hold on.
There was one about wearing a bikini. I saw that one pop up.
Yeah, this is where I'm going, but you're already there. Like, does that hurt? Like, does sand really get into the?
Yes, sand does get into all the parts. And the key, it took a long time. It took like 6 years for us to get our bikini shape right and the elastic right, because if it cuts in too far, then you've got bubble butts. And if it doesn't cut in enough, it falls down. And I got to tell the story. Kerri once at practice, this is good, Kez, this is great when you're hosting. So I set the ball to Kerri. She goes up to spike, and her back is like muscly. She's in one of these tiny shoestring bikinis at training because Kez likes to get the tan, and I didn't care about the tan. And so she goes up to spike, and the back snaps. And so I set the ball, and then my job's to turn and look at the net and give her some advice on where to hit it. Not that she listened often because, go your own. But I turn and the ball doesn't cross the net. It drops on the ground, and I look at her and about to yell at her until I realise she's holding on to her bikini. So it is a challenge, but I must say that as you get more and more used to it, it's the best outfit to wear because otherwise it's wet in the heat, and even if you wear bike pants, the sand gets underneath and chafes. So less is more, Cookie.
Okay. Well, James has just said you could use it as a face mask in Victoria now if you needed to.
Oh. Can I ask where the suits from the gold medal game in Bondi, where do you put them?
I still have a couple that I've got put away to frame one day. Nat's framed one of hers. I've given one away, I think, or gave it to the museum, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, they're around.
Yeah, I gave one of every games, 5 sets to the museum in Melbourne. So, the better question, Dan, is what they've done with it because they're not on display, so they're in some drawer.
Storage unit. All right, we've got some questions. We've got plenty of questions here. So I'm going to ask this one from Rob at the start. What do you think everyday people can learn from your gold medal performances to improve their own lives? I'll go with you first, Nat, and then you, Dan.
Well, for me, it's simple, Rob, and hello, because I've seen you on a lot of the shows, so you're an avid fan. It absolutely is about taking a step every day to be the best you can be. So that's what I tried to do. Didn't always work, which is the other thing. It doesn't always go to plan. And the beauty is, and why sleep is really important, because it resets you to have another go the next day. And if you can go through your life, whatever you want to achieve in your life, whatever the gold medal goal is for you, and try and be the best you can be every day. And no, it's going to go pear-shaped occasionally. It's going to not go to plan. It's going to be challenging. All of those things come in, and then you find a way anyway because it's so important to you. That's what I learned from my journey.
So good. Daniel, anything to add?
Mine's a little bit different because whilst I won a gold as a part of a relay, I only swam in the heat. So I never really won my gold medal. And I think that's what I've learned from that is you keep going, you keep motivating yourself to reach that goal that you're striving for. And, you know, the reality is you may not ever get there, but you've got to continue to work towards getting to whatever your gold medal is and keep striving to get there.
And just so Nat knows, Greg Hunter, who works for the museum, just said, Nat, they're being looked after. The uniform.
Right.
That's awesome. Mel Smales asks, Shani's dream to become an Olympian began at the age of 8 also, and it's an age that seems to be common for athletes when their dreams are started. What do you think this is?
I think it's the very formative years where you are can be inspired by something, right? So which is why the Olympics are so important for the whole of Australia to watch, and with your kids, because it will be one. I just saw, all I remember is Lisa Curry winning a race, touching the end and being in a tracksuit on a podium, and it's shaped my whole life. And whether it's sport or music or something else that people see, it's so important. And that's why 2032 is going to be so important for us to bring another home games to Australia, to Queensland, so that a lot of the athletes competing now in my podcast have said they were inspired by someone that competed in the Sydney 2000 Olympics. And it's that circle of life. But I do believe the 5 to 10 years old is that formative year where a dream is born.
Love it. Another question for you, Nat. You mentioned about how as a kid you were so focused on getting to the Olympics. How did that focus resonate with the kids you went to school with? Was there any sort of repercussions with them, or were you just in your own?
Yeah, I had no friends. I had no friends because I wanted to beat them at everything, and I beat them at school, and I beat them. I was teacher's pet. I was a straight A student. I kicked the football further than the boys. I was called names. I was bullied. And so I just, instead of hanging out with them and trying to be their friend, because they would just tease me, I went and befriended the teachers. And so most of my lunches at school were hanging out with teachers. And then some of the teachers didn't like that either. So then they would try and kick me out. So I just found myself bouncing around, and I'd sit with the deputy principal of school and have lunch with him and do my maths homework. He was great. Hello, John. Still there, I remember you.
Good on you, John. Well, congratulations on making it to where you are, because, tonight has been so inspirational. It's been so inspirational. I'm wondering what sport I can participate in at 39 years of age just to get to the bloody Olympics, because it's been so incredible to hear all the stories tonight, and the chat room is on fire with how great this discussion has been. So congratulations to you both. Before we head off, I know Kerri's going to do her little quote thing at the end, so I'm looking forward to that. But please make sure that you do make a donation to the Australian Sports Foundation. We're wrapping up in a few more nights, and we want to raise as much money as possible. So please make sure you click in the office area right now and support those community clubs that are struggling at the moment. 70,000 clubs are in trouble. That's your local swimming clubs, it's your local soccer clubs, it's the local hockey clubs, etc. And they need $1.2 billion to survive out of this crazy situation that we all find ourselves in. So over to you, Kerri, to do your bit.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Luke, for having us in the Cuppa of Life Cafe. Thanks to all the incredible people online tonight watching, and all the interaction in the chat box. Tomorrow night, we have Matthew Mitchum and Debbie Watson. So diving and water polo, we're back in the pool again. But before we say goodnight, I want everyone to give a virtual clap to Dan and Nat. Thank you so much for being honest, vulnerable, inspiring, so many incredible things. You guys were awesome. And just leave you with this: a truly happy person is someone who can enjoy the scenery while on a detour.
Oh, that is awesome. That's good. That's
Thanks,
good.
guys.
everyone.
Next one. See you later, everyone. Catch you later.
You guys, thanks.
See you tomorrow.